Then she saw Mrs. Flight. She said to her, "Please, teach my son flying." In the first lesson, "Fly a plane," said Mrs. Flight, but he flew only a kite. He didn't fly a plane, so Mrs. Flight said, "You haven't much brain." Then she saw Mrs. Clinton. She said to her, "Please, teach my son spelling." In the first lesson, "Spell the word to," said Mrs. Clinton, but he spelt the word Britain. He didn't spell the word to, so Mrs. Clinton shouted, "Shame on you!" Then she saw Mrs. Rabbit. She said to her, "Please, teach my son running." In the first lesson, "Run in the race," said Mrs. Rabbit, but he ran a little bit. He didn't run very fast, so Mrs. Rabbit told him, "You are the last." Then she saw Fisherman Who. She said to him, "Please, teach my son fishing." In the first lesson, "Catch a whale," said Fisherman Who, but he caught an old shoe. He didn't catch a whale, so Mr. Who's angry and bit his fingernail. Then she saw Mrs. Professor. She said to her, "Please, teach my son reading." In the first lesson, "Read a story," said Mrs. Professor, but he read only a newspaper. He didn't read a story, and he said, "Madam, I'm sorry." One night, the lazy boy saw his father in his dream. His father said to him, "Please, don't be lazy, my son. If you learn more, I will love you more." The next morning, the lazy boy decided to make his dead father happy. So he read a story. He caught a whale. He ran very fast. Then he spelt the word to. He flew a plane. He sang a song. He drove a car. And then he drew a hen. At last, the old woman and her son were pleased. They lived happily ever after.